Women are mounting a pressure for their voices to be heard in the upcoming national dialogue announced by the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya. Women, notably leaders of the civil society, are pressurizing the Biya government to take into account the situation of women, notably those in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon hit by socio-political and security crisis for close to 3 years today. Some of the female civil society leaders were meeting here in the economic capital Douala today to prepare for that event, and the government delegate to the Kumba City Council continues his war against Operation Ghost Town, emphasizing on insisting that those whose shops were sealed for respecting Operation Ghost Town must pay 25,000 francs CFA for the shops to be reopened. And lawyers in the Republic of Cameroon are on strike. They are protesting against the violation of human rights, particularly rights of persons detained in different incarceration centers across the country. Those were our top stories. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on EQUINOXE Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bablet Jonathan. Ahead of the national dialogue on the Anglophone crisis and other issues of national interest announced by the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, female civil society leaders in the country say women should be given a place of priority. Their voices should equally be heard during that important event in the life of the nation. And of course, the situation of women in the northwest and southwest regions of the country should be heard, should be considered during that national dialogue to find a way out of the socio-political and security crisis hitting the northwest and the southwest regions of the country and other issues of national interest. Some of the female civil society leaders were meeting here in the economic capital Douala under the auspices of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Details in this report compiled by Hemin Iluga.
It's been a couple of years now that Cameroon has been warped in what today is termed the socio-political upheavals. Be it in the far north, southwest and northwest regions, serenity is presently of primordial quest by the population. From children who have today been victimized by the situation in the said regions, women who make a greater folk in those areas remain the most troubled. Activities have been at a standstill point, and as per women of the civil society, it's evident the situation of women in these regions is alarming.
It is totally deplorable. The magnitude of loss, of trauma, of instability cannot just be overemphasized. Women have suffered a great deal in terms of the crisis generally, whether in the northwest and the southwest region. They have a narrative which is specific to them.
Even much more serious are issues concerning women in Cameroon to be resolved. This explains why, though not specified in the recent presidential speech, women think it is essential not to undermine your situation in course of the upcoming inclusive dialogue.
We are expecting that a women's perspective and a women's narratives to be mainstreamed into the decisions that will be arrived at the level of the dialogue table. We want to ensure that women's voices, even if they are not able to be generally seated on that table, their voices should be heard. We want to ensure that the women's, their real stories, their experiences, and what they're expecting out of the head of state and other stakeholders in peace should be addressed adequately. That's what we are trying to make sure that we go right down to the grassroots level to make sure that we have a bottom-top approach and that everybody's narrative is taken into perspective so that those who will be representing us are able to represent women as a whole.
Working towards a better world for universal citizens, the goal hereby, this welfare actors also targets preventing violence meted on children and women, but above all to address in a subtle way issues of conflicts in Cameroon.
And the fight against Operation Ghost Town continues in the two Anglophone regions of the country, notably in the southwest region, where the government delegate to the Kumba City Council sees traders whose stores or shops were sealed according to because they have been respecting Operation Ghost Town will pay the sum of 25,000 francs CFA before the shops will be reopened. And Kelengo. Victor made the declaration as he visited the Kumba main market today to ensure that traders have not unsealed the shops, and of course he was, however, assured the population of the town of Kumba that the ghosts must be kicked out of that municipality. Here's an extract of the government delegate to the Kumba City Council in Kelengo. Victor, take a listen.
But that so many of the stores still remain there with the seal. In fact, it was an appraisal of whether these traders had adhered to what I decided to do, and I realized that most of the traders didn't unseal their shops, and they complain that they don't have monies to pay, because as they sealed, before you unseal, you must come to the city council and pay 25,000 francs. And now they are there, they complain that they don't have monies to pay, and that is why their shops remain unsealed. I still expect them to make efforts to come and pay the 25,000 francs and get their stores unsealed. I'm sure they will remain like that. The markets will be very secure to them. In fact, we have made proper arrangements for security to be installed in the market, and for them to have confidence and not fear any longer.
And the academic future of the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon remains uncertain. It remains uncertain because of the Anglophone crisis that has severely impacted the current academic year and the two previous ones. Many schools are still closed, and of course many school-going children, pupils and students are not going to school because of the situation, and many of them have also moved to other parts of the country in order to pursue the academic ventures. And of course the government has been doing everything possible to ensure that pupils and students return to school, and the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga, expresses satisfaction with the attendance in some schools that she visited in the southwest regional town of Limbe, and of course that is in the Fako division, despite the threats. Report Davidson Maimo.
The Minister of Secondary Education, Her Excellency Madame Nalova Lyonga, with the students, staff and community of GTHS Bakingili, are highly delighted to welcome you into our institution. We pray that you have a wonderful and memorable time with us.
The 2 weeks lockdown since the start of the 2019-2020 school year by separatists within the two Anglophone regions is set to be the catalyst of Her Excellency, the Minister of Secondary Education, after an official visit to Douala in the littoral region for a surprise and unexpected visit to Fako Division in the southwest region. Nonetheless, after a visit to some of the major schools in Fako Division, in both the public and lay private, the minister was, however, satisfied with the turnout of both the teaching staffs and the students who have been braving the odds this far. Minister Nalova Lyonga of Secondary Education's surprise visit to Fako Division had a general focus, including security of the teaching staffs and the students, the new reforms in technical education, the introduction of security cameras in schools, encouraging words to teaching staffs, students and the parents, among other issues. The minister's first stop was at Government Technical College Manawa Bay at Bimbia in Limbe 3 subdivision, where she officially approved the site of the school. The relocation of GHS Mbonjo, given that the previous site is practically inaccessible during rainy season due to its flooded nature. The extension of land at Government Technical High School Bakingili, among others. The minister left Limbe, the headquarters of Fako Division in the southwest region, with some degree of satisfaction, given that schools were not totally shut down in Fako Division as proclaimed by separatists.
Take a listen to the Minister of Secondary Education of Cameroon, Nalova Lyonga. She spoke to our correspondent, Davidson Maimo.
I was really not intending to come to the southwest. As you know, I've been working in the littoral region, but it occurred to me that there are children who are going to school. Now, I was so surprised to get to Seka and see whole classrooms all full. If you're outside, in fact, you will not know what is going on. At least one might say that that's a boarding school. But just imagine the joy also when I go to GBHS and seeing the children playing outside. You know, not only being in class, but playing outside. And that's why I usually say that actually what happens to a community is what a community wants that should happen to them. If the community today does not want anybody from outside to determine their life, they will organize in such a way that that doesn't happen. But if they want to be ruled by people who are outside and who are telling them lies, things which they have had and they don't want others to have, then that is a problem. So I am praising the children. Young as they are, they understand the value of education. Special attention to technical education is that in this century, most of the jobs are in the technical side. You know, that is where you get the plumbers, that's where you get the engineers, that's where you get the electricians. You know, you have to go there. If you go and read letters, you will never go and put electricity in a house. You will never.
Cameroon's Minister of Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga, speaking there to Davidson Maimo in Limbe. Lawyers across the Republic of Cameroon started a 5-day nationwide strike action today against the violation of human rights, notably the rights of detainees and even the rights of lawyers in the Republic of Cameroon. And courtrooms in the town of Douala, as elsewhere across the country, were void of lawyers today. And in some of the courts in the town of Douala, court sessions were, however, opened in the absence of the lawyers to the detriment of their clients. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
At the Ndokoti Court of First Instance in the city of Douala, the 5-day strike action called by lawyers across Cameroon is effective. Lawyers are absent in courtrooms whereas their clients are present. Court cases for the day are programs for hearing with judges, magistrates, court clerks and court registrars present. Court sessions have been opened even with the absence of lawyers, and most clients present say they were not aware of the strike action, and in the absence of their lawyers they are helpless. I came because I had a court hearing today, but my lawyer is absent. I am frustrated. I do not know what to do. It is my lawyer that has a better mastery of my court case. Men in black that we met in their offices say the strike action will be respected, and they are determined to do so in order to combat obstacles in the defense of their clients across Cameroon and ensure due respect for lawyers. The concerns and challenges of lawyers in Cameroon have long been channeled by the Bar Council to competent authorities across Cameroon, and we waited for a longer period without an adequate response, which pushed the Bar Council to take this measure. Lawyers have long been victims of humiliation in police as well as gendarmerie offices in Cameroon, and it is most frustrating that you who is called to defend a client is humiliated in front of your client. Despite the meeting between lawyers and Cameroon's minister delegates in the Ministry of Justice last September 4th, the Bar Council opted to move on with the strike action. In a release recently, the Bar Council president says a quorum could not be reached in an extraordinary meeting in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, on September 15. Hence, nothing could be done to change the August 31st resolution of the Bar Council fixing the strike action for September 16 to September 20, 2019.
And we are receiving a legal mind in this newscast. Barrister Techukwi Michael, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. Good evening to televiewers of Equinox Television. Thank you for inviting me.
I presume you are equally on strike like your other colleagues.
Of course, the Bar Council took the decision which is binding upon all the members of the Bar Association and which I cannot derogate.
All right. Now, let's come back to the problem that you're tabling, which you're expecting a solution within these 5 days of a strike action. What is
the reporter rightly said about the question of torture on the litigants, the abuse of the law by the other actors of the judicial family, the judicial police investigator, the excessive cost in the court, and as well as the assault on the person of the lawyer, and many others which are problems violating the exercise, posing the exercise of the profession in difficulties. As a victim of such circumstances, because I happen to have been a victim by an attempt before 2 commissioners in this particular issue, and I had to leave the investigation which I was for in order for my safety. So, which is actually a real problem in the exercise of the profession.
All right, that's as far as lawyers are concerned. Now, the detainees. There's another problem concerning the respect of the rights of detainees, in particular detainees in Cameroon.
Yes, Mr. Babila, it is a whole sad situation, because when you look at the Criminal Procedure Code, if the Criminal Procedure Code was mastered and by the various actors, the lawyers themselves inclusive, we should not be looking only at the government and other actors. There is the first in which as an individual I have tried to identify within the profession, and which is posing a problem to our criminal justice in Cameroon, is that when you look at other actors like the judicial police investigators, these guys are people, they may not even have the advanced level certificate. Because I don't know how they find themselves in becoming judicial police officers. Somebody who has never done a law course, who doesn't know what it takes to, when they talk about human rights, it's just something, it's just a theory, an imagination. But these are issues which can only be answered by somebody who has understood the law first. Then you can now be asking about the question of the right, what are the rights of the detainees. But unfortunately, that is not the case.
They don't master the rights of the detainees, is that what you're saying?
They don't master the right of the detainees, they don't even master the law, the provision of the law.
Is that why they are often violated? The rights are often violated?
That is exactly the situation, because if you go to the fee, you will see that some of the judicial police officers who have been used to investigation, maybe for some time that they have acquainted themselves with these issues, they have a different attitude. But the newcomers, they are very hostile in the issue of rights. They don't understand it. And when you want to the problem that most lawyers have with these people is that you try to reason them, and you want to reason a judicial police officer, it becomes a problem, because he tells you, like the case I'm talking before 2 commissioners. The first one, it was a question that I put before before a commissioner to know the charge, the offense which my client was standing before was being investigated upon. So this, because when he narrated the story, I told him, this is a narration you have made. Which legal provision of the law has been offended, that this qualify this thing to an offense, so that I know that my client is being investigated upon this charge. So he said, you wait in court, I do my case here, you wait in court and you defend. Here we are not to argue, you are supposed to sit quiet.
Now, you met with, when I'm talking about you, I'm referring to the lawyers, some of the leaders of the bar. You met with the minister in charge of justice, the minister of state in charge of I'm talking about the one of the officials of the Ministry of Justice, not the minister himself, but his deputy. What happened? Why did you not agree?
Probably I would like you to be more specific, because talking about
Minister Jean de Dieu Momo, you met with him, but the strike action still continued. The government failed to convince you to abandon the strike?
Mr. Babila, I think as on the issue of the strike action, it is true that the Minister Jean de Dieu Momo is an appointee of the system, and I think that the strike is a right which I think it must be upheld as it is being upheld by the respective actors concerned. But I think that the stakes at which we find ourselves today, it was such that we could not be expecting so much from the regime, because I think the bar ought to have been taking the lead in order to help the regime to move out of the problems which we are getting through. We are getting through now. But when the bar now comes with this additional strike action, it has further aggravated the pain which the regime is going through. So you will not expect them, you would not have expected something different to happen.
All right, Barrister Tichukwi Michael, thanks for coming. Coming up, we're talking about the Martyrs Week, the celebration of efforts of the nationalists, including Ruben Nyobe, who fought for Cameroon some years back. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
It is the Martyrs Week as some politicians in the Seka in the Nyoankele division of the Central Region say. A week reserved for the honor of nationalists who died for the sake of Cameroon. Unfortunately, commemorations which started over the weekend have been timid. Timid because many, especially youths, do not know the actual history of the martyrs. According to them, no book or program talks about the national heroes like Ruben Nyobe, Felix Mumier, and many others. I was not taught everything about Nyobe in school. I implore governments to include such heroes in school programs so that the future generation knows of their history. Nyobe's history should be taught in school and not that of foreigners. I have never known of Nyobe but heard people talk about him. The Biya government has been accused for doing nothing for the remembrance of these nationalists. That the government should have even showed concern by constructing a monument in honor of Ruben Nyobe, for instance. Militants of the Cameroon's People Union (UPC) regret the role of such a national hero in the history of Cameroon is completely neglected. They wish government of Cameroon sees into it that history of these martyrs are written and taught in schools. By so doing, the feeling of patriotism within Cameroonians will be revived.
Des ouvrages qui seraient au programme pour que nos enfants apprennent qui était Nyobe. Pourquoi ces gens-là sont morts pour la nation camerounaise.
Ruben Nyobe, highly hailed in Seka, was an anti-colonialist Cameroonian leader slain by the French army on September 13, 1958, near his natal village of Bumnyebel. He quitted the UPC, which used armed struggle to obtain independence from French colonial rule.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in Talking Point. We are receiving Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel Abo. He's a member of the Cameroon Bar Association. Barrister, I guess you're also on strike.
Well, I'm a boss, so I cannot go on strike. We just simply deserted the courtrooms.
But deserting the courtrooms
is not a strike. Strike is peculiar to workers. Bosses don't go on strike.
Okay.
We've just refused to attend the court sessions because something is going wrong.
And that thing, do you think that in 5 days' time you will have answers?
It's a message.
This government?
It's a message we sent, and you are a witness that the government started reacting. But due to technical reasons beyond our control, a quorum could not be formed at the last Bar Council meeting, so no decision could be taken to reverse the previous one.
And you fail to agree with Minister Jean de Dieu Momo, who is also a lawyer?
No, once he becomes a minister, he ceases to exercise his function as a lawyer. He ceases to be a lawyer as the moment he becomes a magistrate, a minister.
All right. Let's talk about the upcoming national dialogue announced by the President of the Republic of Cameroon. What is at stake according to you?
Well, right, you see, the president has announced a national dialogue and appointed the Prime Minister, Dr. John Gute, to preside over it. You see, the president is a very busy man, and one would expect that certain aspects, certain things may escape his memory. So that's why it is the duty of legal minds to draw his attention to this. The first, I'll give 2 points. The first one is the provisions of Resolution 1608 of the 21st of April 1961 of the United Nations, which governed the plebiscite in British Southern Cameroon. Point 5 of those resolutions are very clear. That point 5 prescribed that the governments of the Southern Cameroon, the republics of Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon should immediately come together to put together all the arrangements that will determine the implementation of the policies that they have, on which they have agreed. In other words, they have to come together to conclude a union treaty.
A union treaty? What's that, a union treaty?
A treaty that defines the terms of their coming together.
That never happened.
It never happened. You see, so...
but some have been disputing that fact. That
I have given you the reference. Resolution 1608 of the 21st of September 1961, United Nations, point 5. I've given you the provisions. So any person who wants to argue can either go to UN or consult that resolution on Google.
You're backing the fact that you're backing what some people have been saying, that this union is illegal.
I am going to the second point as you are raising. The union is you see, we are living in a legal jungle. Can you imagine, Babila, that the present constitution of Cameroon, I'm talking of this constitution that is governing this country today, the one of 1996, Article 68 provides that all the previous legislation of the Federal Republic and of the federated states remain in force insofar as they don't violate existing laws. That means that the 1948 Macpherson Constitution of Southern Cameroon is in force, and that is why even the 1955 High Court law of Southern Cameroon is in force. That is why the government finds it difficult to dismantle the English legal system that was created by those legal instruments. The English education system as well, and most of our cultural things. You see, we are in a legal jungle. In 1961, President Ahidjo decreed the entry into force of the Federal Constitution, which simply means that that instrument was a legal nullity. No constitution is decreed. You vote a constitution and it is promulgated into law. It was decreed. Southern Cameroon, as of that date, had a government, had a parliament. It was a full country. You see from the UN resolution that they are talking about two countries, two republics, and the governments of the two republics, they both had assemblies which could have voted that constitution and then promulgated into law. It never happened. So that constitution is a nullity, and everything else that has been built on that constitution collapses. So as of today, we have this legal problem.
So the upcoming national dialogue should bring these issues to the table.
We have this problem created in Article 68 of the Constitution. You cannot forge ahead with one Cameroon that recognizes two Cameroons, because this article recognizes that there are two Cameroons, not one, because the laws formally binding Southern Cameroons are in force. The laws formally binding East Cameroon are in force. So you have two Cameroons recognized in the Constitution. You cannot go ahead with that. We need that union treaty. We need that union treaty that has to bring the two of them together so that we now forge ahead as one nation.
But that constitution that is recognizing the two parts, you said earlier that
Article 68 of 1936 Constitution.
With that same constitution, which you say is illegal,
because it derives its roots from the 1961 Federal Constitution, which was illegal.
Okay, so the national dialogue, what should it seek to address?
It should serve as an avenue for Cameroonians, the Cameroonian legal minds, because many people think this is politics. I want to draw the attention of Cameroonians that if we don't solve this legal issue, we shall suffer inside for years. Legal minds have to come together and iron out these legal issues. We cannot have two countries in one country. It's not possible. Article 68 of this present constitution creates two countries in one country. So we have to come out and present a union treaty. The people of Southern Cameroon and the people of the Republic of Cameroon have to bring a representative, and we come up with a union treaty that should define the terms of the union, what the Francophones call le vivre ensemble. It has to define that, so that from that point now we can have a common legal instrument that can lead us to the future.
So it's not all about coming to discuss marginalization, federalism, decentralization, or whatever.
They have missed the code.
Go back to the roots.
We agree. The UN has said so. Address the root cause of the issue. Address the root cause of the issue. The root cause is not decentralization. It is not marginalization. It is that there is no union treaty, so everybody does his own thing his own way.
But when you look at the way in the announcement of the President of the Republic, he highlighted some number of issues. He mentioned decentralization, an indication that is the stand of the government as far as the form of the state is concerned. He mentioned some persons is going to be led by the Prime Minister and so on. When you look at all of this, do you think that something close to what you're saying now can come out of that meeting?
I said that the President is a very busy man, and that is why some certain aspects may escape him. I did mention so because normally I know that if his attention was drawn to the points that the arguments I'm raising, he will not make he will not convene the meeting in that way. Because if you look at the resolution 1608, you look at Article 68 of our Constitution, you will see that there is a clear legal problem that needs to be addressed. You cannot have two states existing in one with conflict with two parallel legislation, and you think that you can forge ahead as one nation. It's not possible. We need a union treaty that will serve as a melting pot and serve us as a springboard to the future.
All right. Do you think the Prime Minister should be the one to chair that meeting?
If we are talking about a union treaty between two states,
the SDF said that
if we are talking about a union treaty between two states, the Prime Minister of one of the states cannot preside. You can see that resolution 1608 is a UN resolution, so you cannot be applying it by taking the Prime Minister of one of the two states to preside.
Who should preside?
We need a neutral person.
Who is?
A neutral person from another country.
A foreigner.
A neutral person, somebody who is not of any of the two parties.
Other persons think, like Cardinal Tumi, think that nobody should come from outside.
I'm sorry, Cardinal Tumi is not a legal mind.
They should be observers.
He is not
a legal mind. We can manage our problems.
With all due respect, Cardinal Tumi is not a legal mind. I'm talking with legal arguments. If he has better ones, let him produce them.
Right. Senior Barrister Emmanuel Ashu, member of the Cameroon Bar Association and National President of Reform Political Party. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.